Alright, hello, welcome back. This is part 3 of the August 17th Percussion video, okay? At this time, I need you to go ahead and get out lesson 5 and lesson 6, because lesson 5 and lesson 6, I know on our thing, our schedule, it said we're going to go review charts 1 through 4. I kind of went a different direction. I want you to still use charts 1 through 4 as like a reference review point. We'll probably get to those later on. Review with those, work on those. If you need extra practice, at some point we will go over them, okay, I promise. So make sure you keep that. And also, at the end of this week, I will be telling you what I need back and what I don't need back, okay? There's some stuff I'm going to want you to keep and some stuff that I don't want you to keep, okay? So let's look at lesson 5 first, okay? Lesson 5 is about time signatures. Most of you should know what time signatures are by now, but you know, I'm still just going to review it and everything, okay? If you read at the top, it says, notice how the top number changes to indicate how many beats are each measure. Remember, the top number always represents how many beats are in a measure. So if it's 4, if the top number is 4, that tells me that there's 4 beats in the measure. If the top number is 3, it tells me that there's only 3 beats in the measure. If the top number is 1, that tells me there's just 1 beat in the measure, okay? The bottom number, okay, if you remember, the bottom number tells me what kind of note gets the beat, okay? If you look on this lesson 5, looks like the bottom number for most of these are 4, or all of these are 4, okay? So if the bottom number is 4, that means the quarter note gets the beat, okay? If the bottom number is 4, that means the quarter note gets the beat. If the bottom number is 2, okay, you got to think real quick. What gets 2 beats? What kind of note gets 2 beats? A half note gets 2 beats. So if a 2 was on the bottom, that would tell me that the half note gets the beat. Okay. The only other most common type of bottom number is an 8. So if there's an 8 on the bottom, that tells me that the 8th note gets the beats. And then whatever the top number is usually how many 8th notes there are in each measure. Okay. So let's look at number 5. Okay. Lesson 5, number 1. Okay, lesson 5, number 1. It starts off with 4 quarter notes. Okay, we're a 4/4 time. Okay, 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. It tells me there's going to be 4 beats in the measure, and that the quarter note gets the beat. Okay, and so that first measure gives you 4 quarter notes, followed by a whole rest, followed by 2 half notes, followed by a whole note. Okay, can y'all see that? Yeah. Okay. That's what it gives you, okay? 4/4 time. So in 4/4 time, this is how, and we've been going over this since day 1, okay? In 4/4 time, this is how you would do each of these, okay? When you count them, so big 1, big 2, big 3, big 4, small 1, 2, 3, 4, all with slashes. Make sure those slashes are on that whole rest because the slashes represent silent. All right, half note, we got big 1, little 2, and then big 3, little 4. And then that whole note, we got big 1, little 2, little 3, little 4. Okay, easy peasy, right? If we were to click and count this, we would click on each of these quarter notes, because there's 4 quarter notes in that one measure. Okay, remember these are measures. Okay, I'll draw the bar line right here, bar line right here, bar line right there, bar line right there. Okay, those lines represent bar lines. Okay, the measures. Now you can put them on the other side. Those are all measures, okay? The bar lines on each line, there's got to be 4 beats between each bar line, okay? So if I was to stick click this, okay? If I was to stick click this, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? This should be review for most of you, okay? I understand that, like, this should be review. My 7th grade drummers, you should know how to do this by now. High schoolers, you should know the difference between the time signatures, okay? I'm gonna pause the video real quick. Let's look at number 2. Remember, I'm not gonna pause the video. Now look at number 2. It says that it has a C in for its time signature, okay? The C stands for common time, which common time is 4/4. Okay, it's just another way. Sometimes composers will write a C instead of writing 4/4. It just means common time. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and look at number 3. I'm gonna go ahead and start working on number 3. See how far you get. I'm gonna pause the video and write it up here on the board. All right, so hopefully by now you've finished it. If not, pause the video, okay? All right, so our time signature is what? It is 3/4. 3/4. That means there's going to be 3 beats in the measure. So we should never, when we're counting this, we should never hit the number 4 ever, ever. Okay? There's only 3 beats in the measure, and then the 4 on the bottom tells us that the quarter note's getting the beat. Okay? So that first measure, we got 3 quarter notes in that first measure. Okay? Just 3, not 4, 3. So that automatically tells me that each quarter note gets 1 beat. Okay? So we start off with a big 1, big 2, a big 3. Okay? That second measure, we got a dotted half note. How many beats does a dotted half note get? 3. So that's going to take up all 3 beats of that measure. So we'll give it a big 1, a little 2, a little 3. All right. Now that third measure, we got a half note and then a quarter note. Okay, a half note and a quarter note. Okay, you got to think. What gets beat 1? Half note. What gets beat 2? The half note, because the half note is 2 beats. What gets beat 3? That quarter note. So we should have big 1, little 2, big 3. And again, we got another dotted half note, so big 1, little 2, little 3. Okay, so if I was to click and count this one, okay, now there ain't no rest on this one, so we'll go click and count this one, okay? So click and count this with me real quick. Remember, you should only get the 3, never say 4. You should never say 4 and 3 4 times, because there's no 4 beats, it's only 3 beats per measure, okay? So click and count this with me. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. If you're not clicking with me, okay, make sure you're at least hitting something, tapping your chest. 1, 2, 3, 1, however you want. Okay. Doesn't matter to me as long as you're doing it. Okay. Because when you come up here, you will have to do a counting test like this and be able to say it, and whether you'll have to be able to say it, and whether you're hitting something, hitting a drum, that part won't really matter as long as you're able to do it, okay? So make sure you're always clicking and counting with me, all right? So good. That is 3/4 time, all right? The last time signature they have on here is 2/4. Go ahead and look at number 5, okay? Look at number 5. Okay, the time signature says 2 on the top, 4 on the bottom. Okay, that tells me the 2 on the top tells me there's going to be 2 beats per measure. Okay, and the bottom number tells me 4, and the quarter note gets beat. So if you look at that first measure, you got 2 quarter notes. Okay, so obviously those 2 quarter notes are going to get big 1 and then big 2. Then you got a half note, so that means that half note is going to get both beats in that measure. You're going to give it a big 1 and a little 2. All right, the third measure, you got to start off with a quarter rest followed by a quarter note. So small 1 with a slash, then 2. The next measure, you start off with the quarter note and then a quarter rest, so that means it gives a big 1 and a little 2, and then the quarter rest gets a little 2 with a slash, okay? Then you got a half rest, so small 1, small 2, both with slashes, and the last measure, you got a half note, gives you big 1, little 2, okay? With me real quick, we're going to click and count line number 5, okay? We're going to click and count line number 5. I know I'm moving fast. I have to move fast, okay? I got a lot of cover, okay? And I can only really do 47 minutes of stuff, but most of these are 45, okay? So let's click and count this. Number 5. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, okay? Now, I know that's a little tricky because, go fast. It only has 2 beats in measure, so we're not ever going to say 3 or say 4, okay? So let's do that one more time. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, really, if you can just say 1, 2 over again and hit on the right rhythm, you're set. Okay, good. All right, let's flip over to the other side. The rest of that is going to be due for homework. Okay, whatever we didn't cover. Let's flip to the other side where it says eighth notes. Okay. Eighth notes, pretty easy, okay? That first one tells you how we're going to count them, okay? If you look at that first, we're looking at lesson 1, okay, or lesson 6, the first one, okay? That first measure, number 1, tells you how we count our quarter notes. Big 1, big 2, big 3, big 4, okay? Now look at the eighth notes, okay? In a grouping of 2 eighth notes, the eighth notes will always be grouped in 2s most times. Sometimes they're grouped in 4, but we always group them in 2. In the grouping of 2 eighth notes, the first eighth note always gets the number. Okay, if you look on the second measure of line number 1 on those eighth notes, you will see each grouping, the first eighth note in each grouping has the number. Big 1, big 2, big 3, big 4. The second eighth notes all has the and count, okay? They've written like little plus signs, that's fine. I like to make like little and signs, so one look like that, okay? That's what an and sign looks like to me. When I see a plus, that could be like 1 plus, 2 plus, no. Go 1 and, okay? We count it out like 1 and, okay? So like I said, the first eighth note in each grouping gets the number. The second eighth note always gets the and. So 1 and, 1 and, 1 and, 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, okay? You should be able to just go ahead and write out the whole number 1 real quick because it's the same thing. I want to go ahead and look at number 2, okay? Number 2, I'm gonna give you some time, okay? I'm gonna give you like a minute, okay? You might want to pause the video because I'm not going to wait a minute for you to do it. I'm going to give you a minute to do it, okay? Try to do number 2 by yourself, and I'll write it on the board. All right, I only wrote it out one time because obviously each measure is the same, okay? I'm just going to do the first measure, and you can do the rest, okay? So we start off with big 1, big 2, big 1, big 2, because we got 2 quarter notes, okay? And then we give it a big 3 on that first eighth note, and then an and count on the second, and then a big 4, and then an and. Okay, all those are the same throughout that whole entire number 2. Okay, easy peasy. You should be able to fill it out the rest for yourself. Okay. Oh no, the next class is starting. Well, this is all I got then. I gotta start my next class. For homework, just do numbers 3 through 5, and we will review it tomorrow. Bye.